Good evening. So happy to have you tuning in for Good News on Entertainment. I'm Carley Boyette. Tonight, I want to start by telling you about a special movie getting ready to air right here on CTN called The Good Fight. It will air March 1st for CTN's Faith and Family Movie Night. The film stars John Schneider and tells the story of a husband and father who works at a boxing gym who was on the brink of losing everything because of an alcohol addiction. If you or someone you know has ever suffered from an addiction, I think this film is going to bring you a lot of hope as it follows this man's journey and how through God and counseling, victory is possible. Before we meet the director and writer of this film, let's take a look at The Good Fight.
Baddest man in the country.
You've come so much further than you thought you would.
You don't think I can win.
And now, ladies and gentlemen.
I won't be broke, I was built for this. I won't be killed, I'ma live for this. Been in this, still in this. I'm there with purpose and this is it.
So tell me, Luke, how long have you had a drinking problem?
Man, I don't have a drinking problem.
Is it my fault you drink?
You demand this lifestyle.
You're missing your little girl, and she's missing her daddy. What are you gonna do about it?
And James Holley joins me now. And I said writer, director, and you also star in the film as well.
I'd say co-star. I'd say co-star for sure.
Man of many talents. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a wonderful film.
I appreciate it.
You know, my biggest takeaway when I watched it is I don't know if I feel like we've seen men and different people maybe tackle addiction, but this really gave a good insight in maybe some of the counseling that happens. That was kind of my first thought was, yeah, I want to know what that might look like.
You got to make them say what the problem is, or they can't fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote it, the idea of The Good Fight, it's set in what's called a fight night in my hometown. But every character in the movie has their own fight. One character's fighting for his life. One woman's fighting for her family. He happens to be battling alcoholism. He never in the movie admits that he's an alcoholic. It's always just that he's made a bad decision. You know, we wrestle with things. Sometimes the fight is seeing the flaw in ourselves. Yeah. So that's kind of what this addressed with him.
The writing is also very good too, because I had a hard time liking him. Like, it was really like...
Yeah. And he's one of the nicest people.
You end up loving him, you know, at the end. There's hope and it's a good ending. But man, it's frustrating. But I just thought that was real life too. Yeah. I mean, you've done a very good job in writing a very real I think relatable script.
We spend our times around family members, and this is very important to me, being a Christian. There are things that go on with congregation members that they don't tell anybody. We all have things going on at home that we're not going to brag about. We're certainly not going to post about it on social media. But those things are why the most wonderful couples in the world, you find out one Sunday morning they've split up, and you're thinking, how did that happen? And so I wanted to just address the elephant in the room, and that is Christians are human. We have the same struggles as everybody else. And without the proper counseling and without understanding that God's made a way to lead us out of these things if we'll pay attention, that's what the movie's about.
I'm so excited that CTN is going to be. This is its first national kind of TV premiere, right? So tell me about, this was actually shot in COVID, that season of life that I think we can all remember. And this is just so interesting to me, that the life now, how movies can kind of take and still grow and go on, you know, from the initial stages. The
resilience that COVID proved to us that we have probably is a bigger deal than the effect it had on us in negative ways, because I was actually overseas in Thailand making a movie, and we were cut short, and they flew us back home. All we knew was that there was some bad virus that was going around Asia. We didn't even know it was in the United States. I don't know that it had made it to the United States yet as far as publicity, maybe one case. Anyway, they wanted to get us out of Asia. It was me and a couple of British actors, and we got home, and after a couple of weeks, all these filmmakers are sitting around with nothing to do, and we got on a Zoom call, and we were trying to figure out things we could do to keep sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a friend that owns a boxing gym, and he refused to close during COVID. And we thought, let's give him some promotion. And we went to make him a commercial. And when we went back and looked at our footage, we thought, this looks really good. We just bought a new Blackmagic camera, and it was top of the line. And we thought, this is too good for just a commercial. And so I started writing 4 and 5 pages at a time. During that time, during COVID, we were only allowed to have at times 3 or 4 people in a room at once. So I'd be directing from another room, looking at a monitor, yelling through a mask what I wanted them to do. And the only people that were allowed to take their masks off were the ones that were saying their lines on film. Every cameraman, all the light people, everybody was 6 feet apart, masks on, and it was not easy.
Where was the shot, by the way? Let people know.
The whole thing was shot in Huntington, West Virginia.
Okay, West Virginia.
And for those that have never heard of Huntington, if you've ever seen the Matthew McConaughey movie, We Are Marshall, every single person on tech was from Marshall University.
Oh, wow.
And they had just graduated from Marshall's first cinematography class. That group, and they just killed it. They were a bunch of 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds, and they were anxious to work. And I was paying them, so they were actually getting paid during COVID. Wow. And so it was a really neat experience, but it made us work extra hard because of the limitations COVID put on us.
Talk about John Schneider a little bit. That's a big deal to have him in this film. I mean, were you picturing him when you were writing this? You know, and you got to obviously act with him as well.
The weirdest thing in the world is for a guy who, when you were 11 years old, you had a action figure of him, which I did. And I had the General Lee and everything. And then to direct him was really, really crazy. It was surreal. But so I had a movie that had no end game. We were, like I said, we started off making a commercial. Then it turned into something a little more. And I met your marketing guy, Chris Yates, here at the network. And he put me in touch with some folks that were going to help me kind of polish up the movie. And Arch Media in Nashville reached out, and they told me, they said, you know, you need another character that's a name. I had no idea where I was going to go with that. But I thought maybe if I put an attorney in, maybe if the guy gets a DUI and he needs an attorney. And I was actually looking at a couple of faith-based names and watching Fox News, and John Schneider came on doing a segment. And I thought, he sounds like a redneck lawyer. And I called the Arch Media back, and she said, I just finished working with him. So she said, he wants to read your pages before he says he'll do it. And there were no pages. So I spent all night typing him up a character, and she sent it to him, and he approved it. And a few days later was in Huntington, and we were filming the scenes with him and Luke. And
he nails this role. It's perfect for him.
Yep.
You mentioned Chris Yates. I want to bring him up for a moment because I want to invite you that when you tune in to CTN, when this has its national TV premiere, we're going to have a special. We're bringing you back because we're going to talk with Chris, who's also one of the producers on the film, Bodie DeAndre, who also is here as well. We're going to have a really fun conversation, too, and expand on this a little bit more. But for these purposes and for people, I want to make sure they tune in on CTN, though. But tell us the backstory of how you saw kind of God show up in this season of life. Because again, I just think back to that COVID season, we were all having to learn super quick new things, how to operate, how to, you know, I'm just so interested from your perspective on how you saw God show up. Maybe we need the whole hour for it. I don't know.
It's a big deal. God showed up. Obviously, he's always there. You have to recognize him.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing that my wife and I talk about. It's, you don't wait on him to show up. You recognize he's already there. And what happened was, you know, I was feeling really down about leaving that movie in Thailand. We were in Laos at the time filming, and it was a Swedish film. It was filmed all over Asia, which is kind of complicated. But, you know, that was supposed to be one of those movies that might give you your break, and then you get sent home before it's finished. And so it would have been real easy to say, well, where's God in this? Maybe I'm not supposed to be an actor. Maybe I'm not supposed to be in the film industry. And just through a series of conversations, we come up with what ended up being the good fight. So instead of losing out on an acting gig, I became a filmmaker. And I never dreamed that was going to happen. And another place that God showed up is when I did have that little piece of a movie completed, and I went to Sunscreen Film Festival here locally, and I met Chris. He was on a panel, and I said, hey, this is what I've got. I don't know what it is, but I think it could be something. God showed up because I didn't even know he was a Christian. I just saw him on a panel talking about independent films. When we started talking about who my market was, his face lit up. And he said, I got some people you need to meet. And had it not been for the people at Christian Television Network, the film wouldn't have got made. Chris would not have introduced me to the people at Arch Media. I would have never met Bodie. Bodie's a big reason this got made because, he was there for me in a support role when I kind of thought I'd used up everybody. Because this was a big undertaking. And
all films are, and I don't think that's why I love this show, Good News on Entertainment, and getting a chance to talk with filmmakers, because a lot of people just don't realize it's a miracle most of them get made anyways. I hear that all the time.
One of the things Bob Elder told me when he saw the movie, he said, you're the recipient of 3 miracles from God. I said, what's that? He said, you wrote a movie, you made a movie, and you've got a movie being distributed. He said, that's 3 miracles, because most people don't ever get the first one done. And I thought, that's right. But the way that filmmakers, especially faith-based filmmakers, have to look at it is, I didn't make this movie. I was the conduit. This is going to help somebody. God, every good thing comes from God. And every good experience, everybody I've met, this is all, the only thing I will take credit for is I opened my eyes and recognized that God was in it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us here in studio. And again, just so excited for what's to come.
I hope everybody loves it.
Again, make sure you are tuning in to CTN's Faith and Family Movie Night, March 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern. Go to ctnonline.com for more info as well. Okay, now to the very highly anticipated series coming to Prime Video, House of David. The series premieres February 27th, and it's the first from The Wonder Project. The Wonder Project is a new independent studio that will be producing premium theatrical films and television series with a mission to entertain the world with courageous stories, inspiring hope, and restoring faith. And when I hear the word courageous, no one comes to mind in the Bible more than David. Before we meet some of the actors in this series, let's go ahead and take a closer look at House of David.
Can one stone change the course of history?
Cowards! Send me your champion!
Goliath!
Can one act of defiance create the legend? I will tell you the story of David, a simple shepherd boy.
Why do my brothers get to fight? And I'm stuck here.
David, you are not a man of blood.
An outcast who became one of the most famous kings who ever lived.
God does not see what man sees.
He sees into the heart. And you have the heart of a lion.
The Philistines have assembled.
I saw the print of a hand, larger than a weaver's basket.
They have a giant. What?
My king, I will fight the giant.
Fight him with the same spirit you bring into this room.
You play music for my father. Now he chooses you as champion. How will you do this?
It's not about the greatness of the giant. It is about the greatness of God.
I
you afraid?
Terrified.
I believe in you.
So, as the fate of a people hangs in the balance, again I ask this question. Can one stone change the course of history?
Well, gentlemen, I love that they paired y'all together. I guess it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I'm Michael and this is Martin.
All right, I'm going to start with Michael first, though, because obviously, David, man, talk about, I mean, literally, they searched the globe for someone to play David, and they landed on you. Talk about, I know this just must be such an honor for you. And now that this is getting ready to finally stream, what are your thoughts, Michael? Let's start there.
Well, it definitely is an honor, and it's a blessing and a privilege, and it wasn't easy. I remember I got the first audition for this on the 27th of January, and immediately I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, you're not going to believe this, but I got an audition for David. And this is special because I watched a show called The Chosen, and I was really inspired by it, and I told my family I'd love to do something like that, and they said, well, who would you play? And I was like, I'd love to play King David one day. And then 3 years later, I had this audition, and so I submitted the audition, and about a month later, I heard no. And I was like, I guess it's not meant to be. And then a few weeks after that, my reps called me and said, hey, remember that David thing? You have another shot at it. So immediately I call my mom, and she says, Michael, this time you better start praying and fasting. And I was like, okay. And I submitted the audition. And then a week later, I was having lunch with the executive producer of the show. And then screen test after screen test, after this, after that, I eventually got the call that I was going to be spending 4 months in Greece filming House of David.
So literally an answer to prayer and fasting. I love that. Martin, you get into act. I mean, when did you start doing this? There's not too many people that could play Goliath. You play it beautifully.
No. I mean, it's a funny story, really. So initially I was asked to play David, and I said yes. And then they said, well, you could do Goliath. I said, I'll do Goliath. Find someone else for David.
You're the guy.
I mean, for myself, I've been acting 8-9 years, I think it is now. And it's been a journey of happiness and enjoyment, and it's almost like having a fresh start, and it's kind of been reborn again, in all honesty, when you take a career change from being a sportsman and so on in my early stages, and I almost felt like I'd lost that dream of achieving what I wanted to achieve, to have the opportunity to come into the acting world and be an actor and to get to play a character such as Goliath and have that opportunity was phenomenal. And not only to play Goliath, but also to research the story, to research religion, and to open yourself up to maybes and ifs and buts. And I think that's ultimately where the power of this show comes. This is a story that is known by millions. It's probably not something that everyone knows the full depth of. They don't know the whole story of David. They don't know the whole story of David and Goliath and so on. And I think it introduces a whole new audience to religion, and not to go too deep with that, but it allows them to see why religion is so powerful, and the value of stories, and the value of what you can take as an individual from them. And I think as we become older, I think we often look for reason and purpose, and I think I'm at a stage now where maybe that's something that, I got to do a lot of research here. I got to see the show, and you start implementing ideas and visions into your own life, and that's, I think, why this show for myself and for Michael is such an incredible show to be a part of and to put out. And if we can just help people in the world with self-belief and faith, and they can take that into their everyday life. I think, it's what more of a privilege can you ask for?
You mentioned it, everyone knows David and Goliath. That's a pretty well-known story, but just like The Chosen, being able to give context, it makes the story so much more powerful and impactful when you know what that battle, it's just a good battle scene, right? Because the underdog wins. But when you realize what it leads into and how it fits into the bigger story. So, gentlemen, just job well done. Keep going at it. We're excited, hopefully, to see more seasons. Martin, you probably won't be back.
I mean,
sorry, your part is a little short-lived.
For anyone that's not read the story, don't spoil it for them.
But we hope to see lots of you, Michael, in the future of David as well. So, gentlemen, thank you both so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Lovely to talk.
God does not see what man sees.
He sees into the heart. And you have the heart of a lion.
Well, congratulations on this role. Tell me about how much you kind of knew of the story of David. And then it's one of those, there's a lot to dive into. It's a lot to just pick up and zoom in. So where did you kind of first find yourself in this whole story?
Well, I was asked to do the role, and of course I was asked would you be interested, would you consider playing the role of Samuel in a new series, House of David? And right away I knew who Samuel, I'm very familiar with the story. I wouldn't say I'm an Old Testament junkie, but I have read the Old Testament back in the day. And I've always thought it was a fantastically instructive story in many respects. Thematically, it's an important story. It's about self-realization. It's about breaking beyond the boundaries of one's own sort of limitations, it seems to me. And to play Samuel, to play this figure who is so he's the ignition of this whole process, in many, many ways. He really kickstarts everything. Of course, he would say he kickstarts nothing, that he's merely the vessel that God is speaking through. And there's truth in that as well when one plays the character. So I just viewed it as a kind of an extraordinary opportunity to go down roads and paths that as an actor, I have not gone down before, and to do everything I could to try to make this character come alive and be accessible to audiences of all persuasions, and to make an indelible mark if I could.
Talk about working with Michael, who plays David, and again, you have these iconic roles and people that really are just beloved. They're timeless, right? And talk about what that was like as an actor.
Listen, I give tremendous credit to the producers and the casting director on this show, because they could not have found an actor, in my opinion, who could play the role as brilliantly as Michael Iskandar is playing it. It's a beautiful, beautiful performance. And I've watched the episodes, It's got subtlety, it's got vulnerability, it's got power, it's got rage, it's got anger, it's got love, it's an extremely well-contoured piece of work. And I will add this, he brought out something in me that I was never expecting to find, I wasn't looking for at all in this role, which is to say, he brought out this sense of joy in Samuel. A lot of times if you're talking about the Old Testament, we tend to furrow our brows and get pretty serious, because there's a lot of righteousness and a lot of retribution and a lot of, there's a lot of fire and thunder that goes on. But being around Michael as David, it just lifted my heart. And it lifted my heart as I was embodying Samuel. So something made its way into the role that was as surprising and delightful to me as it would be as I hope it is, to audiences, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. So are you ready? I mean, when you go, you look at it with The Chosen. I'm a big fan of that. And there's always a little constructive criticism both ways. I think it's hard when you're portraying these stories that people love and are holding so really kind of righteous, right? Like they're just so important. Are we ready for feedback either way, no matter how it comes, because you know it's coming?
Yeah, look, I love criticism as long as it's good.
Good answer.
No, as long as it's praise, you know. But on the other hand, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm kind of you know, I wouldn't say I'm ready for anything. As a matter of fact, as I get older, I find it actually harder to absorb criticism than I did when I was young. Maybe I think I know better now. But sure, I mean, it'll be anything. The thing is, what I think when you talk about feedback or something, I think what you're talking about is discussion. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And you know, I mean, the things that are dividing us in this day, this particular moment in time that we're living in, these are deep and devilish issues. But without discussion, without frank discussion, without frank airing of views, I don't think anything can be solved. So, you know, if people have things to say about it, personally, I have viewed the 8 episodes and I find nothing to criticize at all. I think it's splendid from beginning.
Well, congratulations again on this role. I'm so excited to see where it goes from here. Hopefully there will be many seasons and as well. And we just want more of this. I'm so excited. Like you said, that's what I live for when shows and TV series can start gospel conversations, which this one will, no doubt.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Carley. Nice talking to you, and enjoy the show.
Again, I ask this question. Can one stone change the course of history?
Again, House of David premieres on Prime Video with 3 episodes on February 27th, and then new episodes are going to be rolling out weekly after that. And by the way, we will have more on the Wonder Project in the weeks to come as well. I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm Carley Boyette, and I look forward to seeing you next week right here on your Christian Television Network.